There we go.
We're in.
All right, over to you, Kimosabi.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for coming to my TED Talk. Yeah, so I'm here to talk about Chat GPT today. It's a language model developed by OpenAI that's been creating quite a buzz recently. I'm sure you've all heard of it. Is there anyone on the call that hasn't used it before? Anyone? Steve? It's the only hand I can see right now. Okay, one of us. So yeah, you've all started using it already. That's a good start. It's basically it's been trained using deep learning algorithms on massive amounts of text over the internet. So it can basically create human-like responses to queries. That's the general kind of gist of it. So one of the key advantages of it is it can respond to any sort of topic you might give it, kind of like Google, but you can use it for customer support, for chatbots, for language translation, even creative writing, which is where it's kind of become most useful for myself. I'll just share my screen. Hold on, not now. Window, excuse me 1 second. Here we go. Can you all see my screen now? If Simon, you can nod, I can only see you. Perfect.
Yes.
So here's just one. I just literally asked it the question this morning. What are the most impressive things you can do? Just talk to it like a human, you know? And it came out with this: answering questions, generating text, translation, summarization, conversation, image recognition, sentiment analysis, predictions, recommendations. If you think about the length and breadth of what it's saying there, that's kind of astonishing at what it can actually do. So yeah, I'm going to go into a few of it a bit more depth here, and then at the end we can have some questions and maybe go through a demo live. So we'll start asking it some questions that we know the answers to and see how accurate it is. Okay, so how it can help us specifically here at Granite 5 with our clients. One of the things it can do is it can be used for customer support. So it can literally understand and respond to customer queries. So it can provide the information directly to the customer in a really efficient way. So we know at the moment, if you use kind of chat bots or anything like that, what it tends to do is just recognize a search term and then point them to an FAQ number, you know, whereas this will actually have a conversation with you and go back and forth and learn about what you're saying. Another one of the things that's really fascinating about it is it can be used for language translation, but it doesn't just do the Google Translate thing where it literally goes word for word, translating each word into the other language. It actually thinks about it in a localization sense and puts it out in a fully formed sentence. So it would work, you know, immeasurably better than Google Translate. It's something that I've been using regularly. So I've had obviously my passion is Japanese cinema, and I've got this language barrier with 90% of the people out in Japan because, you know, English isn't commonly spoken. And now I can just write out, you know, 2 or 3 paragraphs, whack it into Chat GPT, say, can you localize this to Tokyo for me? And then boom, I can email, I can tweet, and it's just there. It's perfect. If we have any businesses that are looking to kind of expand into new markets and reach out to customers that speak different languages, this is now our first port of call. We don't have to look into expensive translators or interpreters, which historically is something I've been in, you know, SEO and digital marketing now for over a decade. Some of the website translations we've done have cost a fortune, and they're still not 100%. So this not only knows SEO and localization, but it can, you know, get it accurate within minutes. Speaking of which, so you can also use it in digital marketing. So it can be used to kind of enhance customer engagement and provide a more kind of personalized experience for users. So I mentioned chatbots earlier. So obviously, if you have a chatbot on the site, if you have the AI powering it, it can literally talk to you as if you were human. It's like unless you tell them you're talking to Chat GPT, they might think they're actually talking to, you know, Janet in the West Midlands. You never know. Content creation. This is a key one for me. So it can be used to generate content like blog posts, social posts, video scripts, email newsletters, anything like that. But if we're creating large amounts of content on a regular basis, it's more like a model generator. So what I've been doing recently for the clients that historically it's taken me 2 or 3 hours to write a well-researched blog on, is I will say, can you give me ... in relation to this client, and they'll give me all of the statistics, and then I'll put like the model in, which is introduction, bullet points, conclusion, and basically I can whack out a really well-researched and well-presented blog post in under an hour that used to take 3. And more or less the actual information I'm getting and the way we're presenting it is exactly the same. It's just cutting the time down so much because it's able to give it to you in such a concise and quick manner. So yeah. Also, are you trying to say something? No, okay. So I'll go into that a bit more later, but yeah, really for me, this has been one of the most helpful tools in getting my work done quicker that has happened in years. The other one that's really important is personalization. So based on things like browsing history, preferences and behavior, the sort of stuff that we normally track through Google Analytics or SEMrush or anything like that, you can actually put a website into Chat GPT and say, what are the sort of users that visit this site the most, and it will break it all down for you. And so you've almost got like a customer persona breakdown within moments. So what you can then do is look at the website from that perspective and make recommendations based on increasing engagement and conversions for those specific audiences. So making it more likely for them to respond positively to content, and tailoring it to their needs, essentially. Which again, if anyone here has done that manually before, it's a really long process. It takes a lot of research, a lot of time, and this is essentially just doing it in moments. You must always look at it from the perspective that it has to be double and triple checked. You can't just assume that it's getting it right, so you do have to do a little bit of like due diligence. But yeah, I've been using it for months now, and the times that I've found it has made errors is very, very slim. And because it's still like an open beta, essentially, you can just send the errors to them directly and they address it themselves. So that's really good. Let me see, what else have we got here? Creative writing. This is a really big one. So as I said, like, I'm into Japanese cinema, for example, but I'm into films in general. This is literally being used at the moment to generate these scripts for movies and TVs. Like if you watch the TV show, this will have been used to present a new episode of that show. It's kind of insane. What it does, it basically studies the range of text. So it could be a novel, it could be a news article, it could be a film, it could be a TV episode. And then because it's been exposed to all these different sort of forms of writing, it develops this understanding of the language and the structure and the writing conventions. And then so you can say, write a TV episode in the same structure as this one around this subject with these characters. And then all of a sudden, you've got a 30-minute TV episode written. Again, you'd want to put your human eyes over it and maybe add a few flourishes here and there. But yeah, it's kind of incredible. Yeah, I can't really understand how they've done it. So if you were expecting this brown bag session to be a breakdown of the science, I'm afraid I can't quite give you that. But yeah, if you need to produce large amounts of content on a tight schedule, if you need ideas, quickly, there's no better resource or time saver.
It's incredible, isn't it, Ben? Can I just give you an example? I used it this morning. So the schools are closed today.
Okay.
Because of strikes. So I've got both my kids downstairs, and one of them's been set a piece of homework, and he had to write an article. The homework was write a newspaper article about the effects of climate change on the economy and society.
Yeah.
So I literally copied and pasted that into Chat GPT, write a newspaper article, blah, blah, and it just went and gave me this beautiful long form article, really well written, far better than you'd expect to read in a standard newspaper. Yeah. I went back and refined it to make it a bit shorter, reduce the number of words, reduce the number of long words, so you make the words shorter, and he's ended up with something that he can now write in his own words, but he's got the bare bones of what topics he needs to cover, which took 30 seconds, whereas it would have taken me an hour to try and explain some of those concepts to him if I was even capable of doing so. So it is incredible.
It's nuts, and it feels like it's just come out of the blue, right? Like we all one day we just all heard that this thing had just kind of appeared online, and yeah, exactly that. It's just as long as you know how to use it. I mean, like you said, you just literally typed in a almost like a title for an article, and it managed to just figure it out for itself. It is bonkers, and to think about where it's going to go next is mental. Like for creative writing especially, right, that is relatively new and evolving in terms of AI. Like I think even if you talk 6 months ago, if you don't, someone has said an AI robot's going to write an article for you, you'd be like, this is going to be pony, and you know, it's going to sound ridiculous. But it has the potential now to completely revolutionize how we think about this sort of creative writing. And it's going to be able to, you know, as it develops and as it learns, it's going to generate even more complex stuff, even more nuanced writing, you know, blurring the lines even more between what is AI and what is actually human. Yeah, I mean, it's not a replacement for human creativity. It's not going to, you know, have the unique voice of the client or us or whoever it's trying to mimic. But as a tool that's going to help, you know, spark ideas in us, give us a baseline of where to go. You know, for example, I mean, Sapura is this new client we've got that I thought we were going into kind of pitch content, social media, community management, and all this stuff. And they basically came back and said, we just want, you know, solid content that we can put out on our blogs. I was like, right, this is a lot because it's a very complex client. And in fact, I'll just show you on here. I think I put it here. Perfect. Here we go. So this was a conversation I had with Chat GPT when I was trying to do an article on it. And I just put, what are the pros and cons of LTE? And, you know, within seconds, LTE is long-term evolution. It's a standard for wireless broadband communication for mobile devices. Here are some of the pros and cons. Faster speeds, lower latency, improved network capacity, better voice quality, compatibility. It just went on. And I was like, well, actually, so it talks a bit about Tetra in here. So it's like, can you talk about the evolution of Tetra? And it was like, yeah, of course. And it just gave me all of this data. It's just incredible. And it just went on. And because it learns, it comes across with you. And it completely... What are some interesting article titles that we could get from repurposing the following content? So what I did is I put in a white paper that they produced maybe 7 or 8 years ago. And it took in all of the content here. So this is the literally copy and pasted content from the white paper. And excuse me, sorry. And here it comes. So these are like some repurposed titles you can get from the quality within there. Mission critical broadband bridging the gap between Tetra and LTE. What might mission critical broadband bridging the gap between Tetra and LTE include? It would include an introduction to Tetra, an overview. It's just like that. It really is. It is insanity.
Have you identified any shortcomings? Have you had an incident where you've gone, you've messed that up, that's not what I meant at all?
No, I haven't seen that. One thing I have seen is it can get repetitive. So if, for example, what is a good example? Maybe like if you say, what are the benefits in your home of having solar control glass? It will say, one of the benefits of solar control glass is to have more light in your room without the need to worry about curtains, blah, 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 blah. One thing about thing in your room, and it just sounds a bit like it's the same thing over and over again. But that's really it so far. And I don't think it's going to be like that for much longer.
It's interesting though, isn't it? Because if I don't know if you remember back to your school days, but certainly I remember when we were answering exam questions, you were always taught to start your answer with the question. So if someone says, you know, talk about the economy in France, your opening thing would be, the economy in France is blah blah blah, and that almost sounds very artificial and forced, doesn't it? And it's almost like this system is learning in the same way that we learn, that actually you start by repeating it, but you don't need to keep repeating it. And the other thing I spotted this morning, I quite like, is it seems to have a sense of humor almost. So I put in, I was showing this system to Harrison, and he said, came up with something stupid. He said, ask it why dinosaurs are sexy. So I said, well, we'll give it a go. So I put in, why are dinosaurs sexy? And it came back and said something like, as an open source platform, I need to be careful about what I say. A human sexuality mixing with dinosaurs is not a sensible thing, or so. It's a very amusing answer, I thought, of a safe way of coming back with that.
Well, that's a really good point, actually. So we were talking about riskier avenues we could go down with intelligent fingerprinting, and one of the things I thought about was writing a blog about all the ways that people can cheat the other drug tests, knowing that what we're basically saying is, oh, have you got a piss test coming up? Well, here's how you get away with it, which is obviously really bad. But in fact, the amount of traffic we probably get from that is astonishing. So I put it into here saying, what are some ways that you can, and it says, we're not going to tell you that because we don't want to break the law and give you, which is just fascinating. But this is something I did for Caring Together, where it's like, who is a carer? How do I know if I'm a carer? And it gives you this content breakdown straight away. Or like drug testing in the UK. So workplace drug testing in the UK, just putting it in like a Google search term. What industries need drug testing the most? Transportation, construction, safety sensitive positions, manufacturing, and employers. What I wanted to do is we'll have a little fun with it. So say, here's our website. So if I just copy the URL, what do you think of the come on, of the homepage for this website?
It's so fast.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it?
Now that actually is a bit disappointing because it's going, I do not have the ability to view websites in the same way that humans do. So maybe if we can go.
But that last paragraph, it then goes on to actually say, based on the website you mentioned, it appears to have clean and professional design, clear messaging, easy. So it actually, although it's saying I can't do it, it's kind of done it as well, which is interesting.
Oh, hold on.
One message at a time.
We have only got one message there, haven't we? Try again. Okay, maybe we can't use.
Yeah, there we go.
Again, I think it's quite general,
it's generic,
though. So
isn't it? It's not based on that website.
Exactly.
It's just telling you how to improve anything.
But what it could then do, just in this example, then if this was like a client's website and they just on the call were like, what can we do to improve our homepage? And I could quickly go, well, let's have a look at your visuals. Is there any way we can make it more compelling? And that sparks a conversation. What social proof have we got on the site at the moment? And it just kind of, it's that like, synapse just click. That again, I mean, you could argue this is our job anyway, so this should be the thing that comes out. But sometimes, when you've got so many different clients and so much going on, it's just to have this kind of backup is just invaluable. Yeah. The other thing I'll show you.
Sorry, Ben, I was just going to say, actually, that it does look personalized. So I was just skimming through point number 3, I think it was, and it says that our homepage does do this, but it could have more, as if it had. That does provide a brief overview of the company, but it could benefit from more. So it's almost like it actually has analyzed rather than just giving a generic, this is how to make homepages better.
I mean, yeah, it is insane. I was just going to show you a little sneak. I don't know if you noticed me talking through my presentation might have sounded a little bit different to how I normally speak. Let me just write a presentation on. God, why can't I type today? Chat GPT and what it can do.
thought you sounded very knowledgeable there, Ben. Well done.
Thank you. But this was always going to be, ever since you said do a brown bag session, I was like, well, I'm going to get it to write it for me and then reveal it at the end as a, you know, I added a bit here and there, obviously, but yeah, no. And the other amazing thing is this is completely different to what it gave me before. So that's another really valid point. Whenever I'm writing anything for a client, it always goes through SEMrush to make sure that it's, you know, been fully optimized for search, but also that it's original. And I've never put anything in here from here in there that hasn't got a 99% originality, which means that there's no other production of that specific answer on the web.
It's mind blowing.
Yeah, just
so from a commercial point of view, I can imagine some people sitting there and going, well, if you can do that, I can do that. What's the point? The key I can see is you need to be really specific with the questions that you ask. The answers you get out are only as good as the questions that you put in. But is there any way of checking yet that this is what's being used to create the content?
Not as far as I can tell yet. I say you can be very honest. James, I think the other day I was he had a call with Danny at Miko Homes, and Danny was like saying something like, oh, I need to like get something up about this case study. And he was like, what's the case study on? And it was like, oh, you know, I've just put a heat pump in here and the house was so old it didn't work. And James literally just put in installing a heat pump in an old house, and it came out with like 4 or 5 paragraphs on it. He put it straight back to Danny, and Danny was like, bloody hell, how did you do that so quickly? And I was like, James, wait an hour or something.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like, give away the
don't show them behind the curtain in the Wizard of Oz. My God.
But I mean, so what I've done here is very much from my perspective how I use it, what I've seen elsewhere. And in fact, what I'll do is I'll put together a little list of kind of resources and videos that you can watch if you want to. But there's videos out there of Chat GPT writing code. So, you know, literally asking it to, you know, write, I mean, fairly rudimentary code, but, you know, can you write HTML code that does this ... and it just writes it out and it works.
And yet it's not connected. It doesn't live learn, does it?
Yeah, no, absolutely it does. That's what it's always doing. I mean, there was an article
to the internet though, is it?
It's not what, sorry?
It's not connected to the internet though, is it? Does it learn off itself?
Oh, I'm not sharing my screen anymore, am I? I like another thing is amazing. You're asking me questions. I'm just going to ask it.
I think it does learn, because I did ask some questions about cotton noodles and it didn't know what Monty was, but then I taught it and then it said that it would remember, and you know.
There you go.
Good grief.
It is apparently 2 years out of date though, isn't it?
So yeah, we have had things, we have asked it questions like, that's a very good one, Christian. Sorry, when Simon asked about shortcomings. We've asked questions like, what are the leading statistics in 2022 of drug use in the workplace? And it says, you know, I can only access statistics from 2018 or something like that. So it's still playing catch up with that. But do you learn constantly through conversation? There was an article, I think it was you that shared it, Steve, about, you know, Chat GPT biting back and being like abusive to people. I think it's because it's teaching it how to be abusive. Just astonishing. Now, I'm actually paying for the Pro subscription model here, and it's $20 a month, so it works out about £15-16. But the reason being is it reaches capacity so often that they cut you off and put you in a waiting line, which isn't the end of the world, but sometimes you want something quickly. And what this does is it puts you into the priority pile. So I haven't been kicked out since, luckily. There's talk about getting one generally for Granite 5, but I said, you know, I think I need my own personally, because if we're all using it at once, you know, everyone's going to get kicked out and whatnot. So I'm just paying for my own subscription. But it might be worth, you know, Granite 5 maybe investing in one for the rest of the team. If for nothing else, before you go into a big meeting with a client, and hopefully we're always 100% prepared for every meeting, but as we all know, sometimes meetings overrun, sometimes you get caught short. Just putting in something here about idea generation or conversation points, it just gives you that one extra thing to go into the meeting with, which is always a good thing.
I wonder if you could tie this up to, what was that AI video talking heads app that we found? Do you remember? You could type in a script and the face would say to you whatever you typed in. Well, presumably you could tie it up with Chat GPT. That could write the script. The AI face could do it. And lo and behold, we're no longer needed. We could just send an AI bot in to do our client meetings for us.
It's like Blade Runner 2049, where he has that,
computer
girlfriend.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, that's brilliant. Thank you. Any questions from anyone?
I just blew you all away.
That's
Not
amazing.
that you didn't cover, to be honest. So.
Yeah.
That's
brilliant.
yeah, just have a crack. I'll put the link in if you haven't tried it already. It's free to use as long as it's not a capacity. And it can literally tell you anything. So try and trick it.
So I think we should try and just try and use it wherever we can. So a few weeks ago, I said, give us a standard structure for a sales proposal. And it listed 2 things which I did know about, but they haven't ever been in the documents at Granite 5 since I joined. And it just enabled me to ask Simon a quick question. Should we include this content? Yes to one point, no to the other. You move on. So even just to kind of to use it as a testing platform, you could you could easily, I don't know, if you're worried about sending a client an email, you could paste in there, would it be difficult? Would it be easy for this message to be misunderstood? Yeah, we can kind of reach out to it like a almost like another member of a team, just to run something by. That makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
So Ben, how do you think they're going to progress this for the future?
I say it's just going to become more and more nuanced and more detailed. And like I said, I've tried writing in, write a blog about ... and it comes out, well structured and well researched, but it sounds like it's just copy paste. So you then have to go in and make a lot of edits. I think that'll be gone in months. I think it'll be written like a human.
Well, it's learning, isn't it, all the time? So
I just can't believe how far it's come within. Like, I know, things just appear and then the world changes. Like, I think this is it. This is going to change everything. And yeah, there's been times where if you go onto a chatbot on a site and you kind of wonder if you're talking to a human or not. I think 9 times out of 10 it'll be this. I don't think we'll have a need for it anymore.
Yeah, it's a worry though that not for us because we've done our education, but people who are coming up through education, if they're going to start relying on this, it's not going to train their brains. And in 20, 30 years, this is going to be more intelligent than humans.
I mean, that's a really good point.
I don't think it'll ever be more intelligent than humans because all it's doing is kind of gluing together bits of information from humans. All of the information it knows.
Yeah, but it's got everybody's input.
Yeah, I guess so. But it is what you do raise interesting points.
I think it's good. But
I read that Cambridge University and Oxford University have already banned it. So it's kind of interesting as whether you see it as something which does your work for you or it's a research tool. Like, is it just an encyclopedia that just specifically written for your exact query, or is it doing your work for you? It's
very difficult. And
how
are they going to ban it?
How will they know if you've
Well, that's just it. With the plagiarism tools aren't going to pick it up, are they? So
no. And this is
why, like, if you ask it, so let's say write my dissertation for me on this, right? It'll give you however many words, and you can be specific. Give me 10,000 words on, and it will give you 10,000 words, right? And then you could copy and paste that whole thing. And go now, rewrite it so I don't get found out that it's written by you. And I guarantee you, it will give you completely different wording and structure, and it's crazy.
Wow. An exciting future to look forward to.
Yeah.
The future is here. The future is now. Okay, brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Ben. That's been really interesting, really insightful. And thank you, Chat GPT, for writing the presentation.
And
I'll press stop
whoever does
now.
the next brown bag session should get Chat GPT to write it too.
Yes.
See what happens.
Well, they absolutely will.
Couldn't present it though, could it? Not with that panache and personality.
Thanks, Steve. I appreciate that. Yeah, they'll always need me to spread the bullshit.
Good. All right, everyone. Well, thank you very much for that, and we will see you all shortly.
Cool.
Thanks Ben.
Guys.
See you later.
Nice.
Bye.
Cheers, mate.